Hey, HR friends, welcome back. We're in the 4-8 emotional 6.5 day sequence, and we're going to talk about day 6. Day 6 is right here in this white rectangle. Now, we always start out by talking about this polarity moments or this unseen pattern of electromagnetics. Now, when we broke the sentient space-time construct we exist in, you see, we're sentient beings. That's why we talk about the emotional sequence. We're supposed to be working through our emotions in positive ways. Now, the reason this pattern is so important to forecast and tell you about is because as this pattern elevates, what it does is it actually activates our defensive design. It makes us feel uncomfortable, and that uncomfortable feeling gets us to react in one of two ways. We either run away from our problems and try to ignore them, or we stand up and fight for them and make more stress. Now, once we understood this pattern and mapped it out into the future, we can now show you when there's going to be elevations, which days are going to be more difficult, which 6.5 day sequences are going to be more difficult, and especially at the beginning of the 4-8, it was extremely difficult. We saw all kinds of things synchronized with this electromagnetic pattern. You see, this is controlling all of us through our defensive design. And that's why social tensions really increased, both in the Middle East, but in all the countries around the world. It's also why we saw weather events and climate catastrophes increased. All of this stuff is interconnected. We're going to talk more about that when we get down to the objective. Now, there's good news and there's bad news. So the good news is we've actually had a couple of smooth sailing days here. And day 6, at least the start of it, is going to start pretty easy for us. Easy in comparison to where we've been. Now, there's still a lot of stress. Some remnants of what this is still affecting us. We've had communities, especially in the United States, devastated by Tropical Storm Debby. We still have flood water. So people's stress is not going away. But the good news is, at least this pattern isn't agitating us to create more stress at the current moment in time. Super, super important you understand these graphs. So we separate this into first person stress, third person stress, and then we combine it because obviously stress is messy. First person stress is the people that you have around you every day, your family, your coworkers, your community members. Third person stress is how you as an individual see the bigger picture and what you want to happen in the bigger picture. And we're all designed to see this differently. Now, my advice to you is this. Do not argue and do not run away from your problems. Stay calm and cooperative, and you will overcome this pattern. If this pattern manipulates your choices and gets you to act negatively or defensively, what it does is it splits our team up. It stops us from working together, it stops us from working out our differences, and it elevates your stress load. Now, as your stress load elevates, so will the progression of your aging. You'll age faster, and you will be certain to have future states of disease because stress is cumulative, and depending on the stress you have, it will lead to a disease state that will make the end of your life unpleasant. That's why it's so important that we show you this pattern and help you understand how to overcome this pattern. Because we were unaware of this pattern, it has been working us over. Don't believe me? Look around. This pattern is creating a predetermined state of chaos. Now, we have a choice here. Once we understand this pattern, once we decide as individuals that we can overcome this pattern at the individual level, we can eliminate our stress. And when we get lots of individuals doing this, we can start to eliminate our stress in the bigger picture as well. Now, that's how this works. And the good news again, day 6, not so difficult. Now, at the end of day 6, you see this small elevation right here. We're going to have a polarity moment or a polarity flip happen on an emotional rhythm. And then you can see that this elevation stays through the rest of this period. Now, this is nothing like what happened up here. This was a dual mental and dual emotional polarity flip. This is just a single emotional polarity flip. All right. So that's the good news. It's definitely going to ramp up. And when our emotional rhythms start to reverse or when that polarity flip happens, this is when it's going to be very likely that you're going to lose control of your temper and you're going to make things worse for you. Now, at the end of day 6 is when this starts, and then the 6.5 day sequence into the next sequence, it's going to continue. So, yellow alert compared to red alert, which this would have been, this is more of a yellow alert. Just pay attention, especially at the end of this 24-hour sequence. All right, so let's get down here and let's discuss the overall objective of this sentient space-time reality. Now, that's really the biggest problem here. We know we're sentient beings. And if you don't know what a sentient being is, it just means that we're capable of processing emotions and that we feel emotions and we feel things. Now, we're supposed to work through our feelings in positive ways, but the problem is we have a defensive system of control that's strapped to our bodies and it's unconscious, meaning it activates whether we want it to or not. And what it does is it convinces us to be negative in relationship, to not work together and to actually separate. Now, to overcome that, you have to overcome the polarity moments we just talked about. Now, once you do that, you can understand the team objective a whole lot better. You see, we're supposed to be getting along with our team. And when we're born into this simulated reality, we're all born from families. Every one of us comes from a family, a mother and a father made us, and we're born either sons and daughters. Now, what we didn't understand is we were all connected mathematically, and this was just a simulated experience to see if we could overcome our emotions to work together as a team. So what's happened here is all of our families, they've disconnected. And this is because we're designed to do this. We're designed to be defensive, which means all of our families are going to invest in individual and family strategies that's going to try to help them more than the other families they feel like they compete with. Now, that's the illusion. We don't compete with anybody. What we're really competing with is this pattern. This pattern is trying to trick us into not achieving this simulated objective. Now, if you want to achieve this simulation's objective, this is why you'd want to do it. It slows the aging process. It can stop the state of disease. It can actually reverse states of disease that you currently are suffering with. And if you make this commitment and do it till the last day that you're in this simulated experience, that's how you graduate out of this negative feedback loop we're in, where bad things happen, and you get to go to a positive feedback loop where good things happen. Think of it like a digital heaven. We explain how that works, but the most important thing that you have to understand now is what the heck we're supposed to be doing. Now, no matter what family you came from, you are expected to get along with every member that coexists in this interactive experience. And you're supposed to be able to talk to them and help them work through their emotions, help them work through all of their negative thoughts, and help them understand what it is we're supposed to be doing together. Now, that's just half of this, is getting along with the team. The other half of this is understanding what the team is expected to do. Every member of the team is expected to have a routine on a day-to-day basis that contributes to the success of their family, but also equally helps every other family. They are expected to have a routine that will help them become a better individual, but will also ensure that all the other individuals they interact with will also have the ability to get better with them. And at the national level, we're all expected to invest in the nations that we live in, but we have to understand this. For a nation to be powerful and successful, it has to be willing to lift the other nations up around it, just like we need individuals and families to work together and lift each other up. Now, when we balance our family, our individual, and our national perspectives, and every member of the team does this, the result will be a balanced and equal world that's peaceful and prosperous for all of us. That is what this simulation is designed to teach us. Now, we are designed to be negative and destructive because what that does is it actually creates what it is we need to fix. And you can see that we've really caused some divisions between our nations and we've really disrupted our world's climate, okay? That is what we now have to focus on if you want to pass this simulated objective. Now, if you decide you don't want to pass this simulated objective, this is how it works at the individual level. Whatever teammates you refuse to get along with, whatever teammates you decide aren't important and you don't have to worry about, and whatever routines you decide you don't have to balance, well, what we've done here is we've simplified this and we've shown the governing frequencies that make our existence possible and how these governing frequencies are connected to the four quadrants of the body. So if you have problems with any one of these quadrants, what you really have problems with is balancing a specific part of your routine and getting along with specific members within our team. That's how this works. And the more unbalanced you are in your approach with your teammates, and the more unbalanced you are with your routines, the more you'll suffer, and the more times you'll have to continue to do this. Now, the second an individual decides to commit to this process and commit to this side, what they'll be is they'll be in perfect alignment with these governing frequencies, which means they get three rewards: low aging, stop progression of disease, and when they die, they get out of this negative feedback loop. Don't do those things, and the consequences are you continue this process until you change your mind. That's how this works. I'm sorry, it's just math. We explain this inside and out, and we have technology that can help you make all of these changes so we can make this as easy on you as possible. But what we can't do is change what it is you're born into. All right. All right. So we're going to prove this to you, and this is how we do that. We're now going to talk about the zoomed in day 6. So here it is. So when we zoom in any day, what we're really doing is we're aligning these time fields with all of the peaks and valleys of these electromagnetic peaks. This is the unseen pattern of chaos that's activating your defensive design and manipulating your choice, whether you knew it or not. And for people that don't have good internet, what we've done is we've got all 24 time zone offsets. So you come down here, you find your time zone offset. Once you find the correct offset, this will hold for 10 seconds, screenshot it. Now you have it all day long in case you don't have good internet. Now, for people that have great internet, just go to our homepage, healthreconnected.com. We have a live feed with a time bar that progresses through this sequence. It's set to universal time. All you have to do is open it up and hit play. And every time you feel defensive or every time you see someone around you get defensive, I want you to reference where that time bar is. And pretty soon you're going to see for yourself that you have been manipulated, that you're being tricked into making bad choices that create negative consequences that only hurt you and the people around you. Now, that's the first way we prove this to you. The second way we prove this to you is through alignments. Now, this isn't a great day for alignments, meaning it's not going to be an easy day to show you how an alignment's going to create a specific experience at a specific time. Now, an alignment is just when two frequencies come together and they amplify. You see, 24/7, we are being tested by frequencies, and all these frequencies care about is how well we're balancing with our teammates and how well we're balancing our routine. Well, that's pretty messy. But when these amplified moments come along, like this one right here, this is a blue alignment, so it has to do with the space side. This has to do specifically with how we get along with teammates. And in this case, if we're having problems with teammates, and the lower half of the body has to do with the younger teammates, so younger males and females, teammates that are trying to figure out what it is they're going to contribute to the overall team and how to balance their routine. Are you able to get along and cooperate with them? Are you able to give them advice? Are you able to encourage them to balance their routines? And if you struggle with that positive relationship and instead you avoid them or you degrade them or you don't lift them up, then what's going to happen is this. The more out of balance you are in that relationship, the more you're going to feel your right lower quadrant during this time. So when the time bar passes through this, if you start to have digestive dysfunction or you start to have musculoskeletal pain anywhere in this lower quadrant of your body, you can be certain that this is just feedback and it's negative feedback. See, you're in a biofeedback system. If you're in alignment with the frequencies, you feel better and things go well. If you're out of alignment with the frequencies, they will amplify the experience and make it very noticeable. And in this case, it's a pretty small day in alignments. Now, that doesn't mean that people won't have a hit here in every single alignment that's long enough. We try to show you this because the sooner you come to the conclusion that you exist in a simulated reality with rules and consequences, the easier it will be for you to overcome your defensive design and reorganize your relationships and reorganize your routines to ensure that you're contributing to a better collective future for all of us. The longer it takes you to come to that conclusion, the more you're going to suffer, and all of these sufferings are predetermined. Every individual has a different life because we all have a different way to learn about this, but what we're supposed to learn is the exact same thing. We all come from the same team, and we all need to commit to that team. And the only way we show that commitment is through actions. You see, it's not good enough just to understand how this works. Truly understand how this works, you have to use your physical will to do it. You have to work through your problems and you have to change your routines. That's the only way to be in balance with these frequencies. All right. So that's enough. This is a light day in testing. We didn't even have to talk about time alignments. Now, if there was a purple alignment that was long enough, and there's a short one here, this would actually do with how well we're doing in our routines. We'll have to wait until the next forecast when we have some time alignments to talk about that. All right, so next thing we're going to do here is we're just going to talk about the overall testing sequence. Now, in this 24-hour period of time, there are going to be a ton of frequencies that are going to test us on how well we're doing with our teammates and how well we're doing with our routines. And this tells you how many of those frequencies are going to test us during this 24-hour period of time. So as the time bar progresses through here, you can see at this moment, left lower quadrant is really going to be tested heavily. So if you start to feel your left lower quadrant tighten up during this section of time, it's just letting you know that you're having trouble with the younger members of your team and that your individual routine is out of balance, meaning you're worried about yourself more than you're worried about the other people. That's how you use this. That's how these guides are helpful. Now, you can see that they're all testing relatively large today. Now, if we get to a number 4 or above, you can see that's where the color changes. Orange into red, that's pretty high. Now, the only one that's not so high is the upper right quadrant. So good news there. You're going to have a little bit of reprieve in that direction, but everything else pretty heavy. Now, these two graphs right here, they split things into how we get along with teammates, first person, and how well we're doing on our routines. Now, there's a lot of overlap here again today. And by overlap, I mean there are strong frequencies that are on the right lower quadrant on both sides. So if you have right lower quadrant pain, it's more likely that it's going to be routine because there's 3 of them here versus 1, but it's possible that it could be because you're not getting along specifically with the younger teammates. So when this happens, when we have overlap, we really encourage you to document what you feel and when you feel it. because that will help us tease this out and understand exactly where you as an individual need to focus the quickest in order to feel the best. The longer you're out of balance with these frequencies, the faster you age and the more disease you get. That's how this works. We're trying to help you reverse that. We're trying to help you stop that. We're trying to help make things get better for you. Now, you can see that there's quite a bit going on this left side today. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 out of 10 frequencies are testing the left side. I would not be surprised if during this 24-hour section, people notice more on the left. And remember, this side has to do with teammates. This side has to do with routine. So if there's left-sided pain, it's more likely that you're struggling with teammates. But again, document those times. That's how we're going to help you. All right, let's end this out. So what we've done here is we've posted the rest of the electromagnetics for 2024, both the summer and the fall season. No more mystery. We'll know when this pattern goes up and when this pattern goes down. And as this electromagnetic pattern fluctuates, so does the chaos around us. When it's elevated, chaos will be more exaggerated. When it starts to fall down, chaos will be less exaggerated. And as soon as you see this pattern and you see how it's not only dictating the stress in your life, but the stress at the larger level, it's going to help you prepare not to be fooled by it anymore. We can actually make this better. But in order to make this better at the larger level, we need as many individuals understanding this and using their conscious positive choice or their willpower to overcome their defensive design. And when we do that, we're actually going to limit the damage and the social conflicts that are starting to overwhelm us. And we're also going to be able to help bring weather events down. In space-time reality, everything is interconnected. Our choices will create our future experiences. And the more negative our choices are collectively, the more negative our future experiences become until eventually we won't have future experiences because we end up destroying ourselves. All3 Connected is trying to slow that process down because it's going to take individuals time to balance. You're not going to be able to balance all your relations and you're not going to be able to balance all your routines in a split second. And if you die before you're balanced, then what happens is you just come right back into this negative feedback loop and you get to do it some more. So understand this. You have to prioritize this and you have to understand it is going to take you years to achieve this. So we need as much time individually and collectively as we possibly can in order to not only make this world a better experience for future generations, but to help you get out of this negative feedback loop you're currently trapped in. All right, that's enough for today. We'll see you in the next 24 hours.